everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. You've reached the Real Estate Fix. I'm your host, Rich Szerman, on KHTS, AM 1220, FM 98.1, your hometown station. Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. I appreciate it. We got a fun show today. It was like we always have fun shows. Every day is fun. We're getting a little more back to business than the last couple of shows, which were my birthday and which was my anniversary of the show here. So I'm a little bit back on track. So we're going to do some market wrap-up stuff. I'm going to tell you what's going on. None of it's good news, so... Yeah, if you're drinking coffee right now, please wait till I'm done because a spit take at home is not attractive, so don't do that. Because I'm going to tell you some stuff. There's some data that's come in that is shocking, frankly. So we're going to go over that. And then we've got a special guest, Christian Lazore, in from Newhall Escrow. We're going to talk to him about all things escrow. So it'll be a good show. It'll be good stuff. You guys will learn a lot today. So first things first, I'm just going to read you a couple of headlines. These are just the headlines that I grabbed off of just various stuff that came into my office over the last week. So here's the first one. Let's see. Supply of homes for sale hits a post-pandemic high in April, but pending sales drop as buyers grapple with the economic uncertainty. That's a long one. Pending home sales down for fourth straight month. Further signs of slow spring housing season. Affordability concerns continue to plague the housing market. Realtors issue very alarming warning over house prices this year. Tariffs snuff out hopes of busy spring housing market. Existing home sales fall to their lowest level since March of 2009. Volatile mortgage rates are pushing buyers to the sideline. And last but not least, from CNBC, homebuyer mortgage demand drops further as economic uncertainty roils the housing market. As we've talked about before, markets, housing markets, trade markets, any sort of market you got in the world, they loathe instability. And unfortunately, the current occupant of the White House seems to thrive in instability. That kind of seems to be his thing. I think the chaos is kind of the point. And I get that in politics, but when you apply that to economics, you get very, very negative results. So according to Realtor.com's economic research team, they're usually a little optimistic about things. Even they had this to say. A surge in the active listing supply and an increase in price reductions failed to lure more buyers off the sidelines in April as pending home sales dropped compared with a year ago. Remember, they didn't just drop. They dropped to the lowest level since 2009, I think. This new monthly housing trend report for April provides one of the earliest snapshots of the housing market in the wake of President Donald Trump's new tariffs. The number of homes actively listed for sale rose 30.6% nationwide. 30.6%. The number of available homes for sale, now granted they've been way low for a very long time, has come up 30.6% nationwide in a 30-day period. I've been saying for weeks here that the level of houses, the number of houses available is coming to the market. More and more houses are coming to the market, and hopefully the interest rate is going to come down. And it should have kind of made a nice little sort of end of the year here. We should have gotten back to some normality. But the tariffs have thrown that completely out the window. So things are a bit of a mess. But yeah, so the number of homes actively listed for sale rose 30.6%. That number knocked me off my chair. Basically, there's a third of the market now that wasn't there 30 days ago that is now there. The share of listings with price reductions, however, also hit a multi-year high of 18%. That's actually down from March because March was over 30%. So the fact that there are only 18 who've dropped the prices in April is actually down a bit, but still ridiculous. But that's the highest share for any April since 2016. Still pending home sales, a measure of homes under contract fell 3.2% compared with last year as an uptick in mortgage rates and economic uncertainty weighed on buyer demand. The last since January, February, March, and April have all been negative months with pending home sales. We have had fewer home sales in those 4 months than we had in the 3 months prior. And that, I hate to tell you guys, like him or hate him, whatever, that is the Trump effect. That is what that is. The fact that Trump was elected president and took office, of course, is what is depressing the housing market. It's not the only thing depressing the housing market, but he sure as heck isn't helping. So my hope, because I live here and I want to see us be successful, and I work here and my family's here and everything else. I'm proud of this country. I love this country, and I want it to do well. I'm rooting for it always. My own self-interest, not to mention everyone else's. I do not get the impression that the current administration has the same goals. I just don't, because I have yet to hear an economist who is not working for the White House or on the payroll tell me that this is a good idea. This tariff thing is a very, very, very bad idea, and it will end very badly. Here are a couple of things, reason I'm going to tell you why. Economic uncertainty breeds problems. So what we're going to see with tariffs, which are a tax, and they are going to be passed on to the consumer. Most businesses do not have the kind of profit margins that they can just absorb this. And even if they could, they're not going to be nice guys about it. They're going to pass it on to the consumer. That's the way this works. That's the way tariffs works. That's the way they've always worked. That's why we, in general, have gotten away from them as a planet. There are very few tariffs, and certainly nothing as hodgepodge as this nonsense. But so because of that, now we have inflation. The Fed fights inflation, and the Fed does that by raising interest rates. We have been desperate to get the interest rate down under 6%. Or hell, even at 6%, it'd be fine. But we're back up around 7. Why? Because of the tariffs. Because markets abhor uncertainty. And usually what happens is when the market drops and the stock market drops, the interest rate goes down because the money goes into the bond market, which is safer. But in this case, because there were so many people selling off bonds as well, the bond yield went up and the interest rate also went up, which is not what's supposed to happen. So there's that. So interest rates are going to go up. Hopefully they'll start to go down in the not too distant future, but having the president go after the head of the Fed is, as we learned last time he was president, is a tremendously bad idea. It sends interest rates up because it sends markets into a panic. Again, threatening to remove the head of the Fed, politicizing the Fed is a mistake. Like the Fed, hate the Fed, I got my issues with them too. I happen to agree with the president that the current head of the Fed is often late to the party. I've said it on the air many times. But the problem we have here is the Fed has to be an apolitical, a non-political entity as best as it can. The president's job is to appoint the members of the Fed and then get out of the way. That's it. When you get in there and you start to politicize the Fed, it makes people go nuts. And I don't just mean in the United States, I mean around the world. The reason the dollar is the dollar, the reason the dollar is the strongest form of money in the world, and it is the gold standard, is because of the Federal Reserve. That's not the only reason. Don't send me emails. I know it's not the only reason. But the Federal Reserve is supposed to be above the political fray. That's why when they set interest rates, the rest of the world tends to follow suit. Now, we can argue about whether the Fed's doing a good job or a bad job. I'll be happy to get on that bus. But having the president go after the Fed is a giant mistake. And this is what happens. Stock markets go nuts. So that is just where we are at. Recent consumer confidence, and this is the big number I was working toward, recent consumer confidence data shows a sharp plunge in sentiment around the economy following Trump's April 2nd tariff announcement. The consumer reporting, with consumers reporting growing concerns about the job market and the declining plans to purchase a home. In other words, you start with this tariff knot. Look, first of all, before the tariff thing happened on April 2nd, interest rates were starting to come down, more inventory was coming to the market, prices were starting to come down. This has already started. But by doing this tariff nonsense, what you've done is you've pushed a lot of buyers out of the market. You've pushed a lot of sellers out of the market. And even though there are a lot of properties coming on the market, we're also at a record number of delistings, people taking houses off the market last 2 months. And so you get all this tumult. Nobody knows which way is up. Most consumers don't want to go spend the largest single purchase in their lifetime until they go buy another one, that is, when the markets are upside down and sideways. It's just not a good idea. It makes people itchy. It makes people crazy. And now he comes out and says maybe your kid will get $2 instead of $30. Yeah, that sounds like a father who's ever had to worry about whether he's going to have enough money to have Christmas for their kids, Christmas toys under the tree for their kids. Trust me, that guy has never had to worry about that a day in his life. And God bless him, he's got that life. Enjoy. But don't you dare say something that asinine to me, because I've been in that position. Now, luckily, as life has gone on, I've done fairly well economically. We're okay. We certainly have to worry about toys under the tree and have them for a long time. However, I do remember my early days. I do remember when my daughter was a baby, and I do remember when she was a toddler and a little kid. And there were times my wife and I had to decide we could take toy A over toy B. Buying $30 was never an option. Buying 2, frankly, wasn't an option. We had to narrow it down to just the 1. And now this guy comes in, screws up the economy for everybody, and he's going to tell us how many Christmas we should just eat it because he says so? Best of luck with that. I wonder why you're so unpopular in every single poll. But we're stuck. We're stuck here. It's only been 100 days, and we're all, this is it. We elected him to be captain of the ship. We all just hope he doesn't run into the shallows, but it's kind of what it's looking like. Further signs of a slow spring housing season. Total sales of existing homes were at their lowest level since 1995 last year, despite a notable bump in activity during the final months of the year. Now inventory is rising, but buyers remain reluctant. A renewed rise in mortgage rates is likely to be a key factor behind the slowdown. Economic uncertainty could also be weighing on buyer demand, with Trump's trade war spurring stock market volatility and fears of recession. New data released on Wednesday showed that the economy shrank by an annual rate of 0.3%, shrinking, in the first quarter of 2025. A recession is marked by 2 consecutive quarters. Yeah, we're going to be in recession by the end of this quarter. We just are. There's no avoiding that. That's just going to happen. We were just barely out. We're growing at 2 to 3%, and now until the last quarter. Now all of a sudden we're under by 0.3%. And I'm telling you, but the next quarter, especially led by real estate and imports, is going to be a disaster. So we're going to be in a recession for sure. And that'll be fun because housing prices are definitely going to come down then. The new monthly housing trends report estimates that a household now needs, and this is one of the big numbers, now needs to earn $114,000 annually to afford a median priced home. That is up 70% from $67,000 just 5 years ago. So pre the pandemic, you could buy a house in this country, an average normal median house, upper middle class, normal stuff house, for $67,000. I'm sorry, you only had to make $67,000. So with a $67,000 a year salary, you could go buy yourself a house, start your American dream, right? Now it's up to $114,000. That's 70% higher. And that's what happens with instability. California, of course, as always, as far as most expensive places, San Jose, California leads the nation with an annual salary needed to buy a normal home of $370,000. And that's up 54% from 2019. These numbers are not sustainable. We will be in recession shortly. Housing prices are already starting to soften. They're going to come down. Now, I had been predicting, I said my housing market's not going to come down a whole lot. It's going to come down somewhere between 1% to 3%. Won't be that big a deal. It's just a slight correction, something we very much need. But this tariff thing has caused me to completely reevaluate. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. But I think houses are going to drop between 5 to 10% in Southern California. That's what I think is going to happen over 2025. Now, like I said, I hope I'm wrong, and there are a number of things that could happen to sort that out. The tariff thing, Trump could just change his mind. Just declare victory. You won something from, I don't know, Equatorial Guinea. I don't care. Just declare victory and get these tariffs out of the way because they won't work. You're not bringing manufacturing back with tariffs. It doesn't work that way. This is not the 1870s. This will not work. So anyway, that's just my opinion. But I know what's going on in the real estate market. Following San Jose or Los Angeles, if you want to buy a house in Los Angeles, an average house, the required income right now is $315,000 a year to buy a median priced home. San Francisco, $263,000. That's in the city proper. The outskirts are more expensive, especially Silicon Valley. San Diego, $258,000, and Boston, which is number 4. So yeah, at least there's one on this list that's not us. $232,000. So the 3 most expensive places in the country right now to live are in California: San Jose, San Francisco, and San Diego. So Los Angeles slipped the news here by a little bit, but I think we're number 6. Anyway, realtors all over the country are issuing the same warning I am. There's a report that came out amid news of breathtaking real estate collapse in parts of the United States. There are parts of the United States where the prices are already just going, they're just going, they're gone. The gap is widening because list prices are growing more than twice as fast as sales prices. People are continuing to price their house based on previous comps. You can't do that. You need to get ahead of the game, not behind it. If your property's been going up the last couple of months, and you ignore the first few months of this year where things are kind of level, and you price it like that, you're not going to sell your house. I've been saying over and over and over and over and over and over again, if you want to sell a house in this market, this has been true for the last year and a half, your house better be a deal. Because if it's not a deal, nobody's buying it. And I would say the same thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be price, although that is a huge part of it. It could very well just be yours is the only one with a remodeled kitchen, yours is the only one with a view, yours is the only one with RV access, something like that. It has to have a hook. If you're just a normal house, you're not getting normal results. You're getting below normal results. That's just the reality. Because consumers have more options and there are fewer consumers. Basic supply and demand. If supply goes up 30% in 30 days and demand comes down, which it has dramatically, I haven't seen any numbers put on it yet, but it's going to be down a lot. Probably down about a third or more. Prices go down. That's just what happens. And the interest rate is not helping us out at all. So what had been shaping up to be a great spring housing market is now done. We can just toss that away. We were looking great in January, less great in February, and it's all gone to heck in March and April. And the tariff thing was the final, icing on that cake. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but I don't think so. Sales of pre-owned single-family homes and condos fell 5.9% in March from 1 month earlier. That's according to the National Association of Realtors, and that's, of course, nationwide. So we do have 6% fewer houses being sold, and that number is going to be a lot higher. And like I said, I haven't seen any for Los Angeles, for our area yet, but my guess is in our area it's closer to 30% down. But we will see. So yeah, it is a big mess. And I think the president's actions on tariffs are wrong-headed. I think we're already beginning to see the first cracks in the system that have developed because of these tariffs, and it is going to get worse. The Fed cannot lower the interest rate when the president of the United States is forcing inflation all by himself. They can't. So we're going to wind up with more expensive everything. There's going to be a lot of things we're not able to get, and the longer the tariff nonsense goes on, the worse this will be. There's already damage. Now, if you stop today, the damage that was done is already irreversible. But if this goes on tomorrow and the next day and the day after that, if we're still talking about this 30, 60 days from now, we're going to be in a recession. I think we're going to be in a recession anyway, but it's going to be much deeper. And it's going to carve the heck out of the housing market. If the tariffs, let me just leave you with this and we'll go to break. If the tariffs go on for more than 60 days, the housing market in this country is going to lose a tremendous, I would say unprecedented, but I remember 2008, is going to lose, 2008 not counting, an unprecedented amount of value. All of us are going to lose value in our homes as a result of this nonsense. So there's a nice little spring message to brighten your day about. Sorry to be the deliverer of bad news. We'll loosen it up a bit with the rest of the show because this is insane. We'll loosen it up with the rest of the show. We're going to have Christian Lazore on from Newhall Escrow. We'll talk about all things escrow, which is wonderful. And you guys can learn some more about the house buying process and the house selling process through escrow and ask what escrow is and what they do and kind of how they fit into the world of this because it is extremely important. So we'll talk about that when we come back for break. So please listen through the break, listen to the advertisers, and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, thank you for coming back after the break. I appreciate it. You're listening to The Real Estate Fix. I'm your host, Rich Szerman on KHTS, FM 98.1, AM 1220, your hometown station. And thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. We have a special guest in studio today. We have Christian Lazore of Newhall Escrow, who I'll tell you before we get started, we had Christian in a couple of weeks ago, and I love KHTS, and I love working here. I love being part of the family here, and it's an honor and privilege to do it. So before I complain, I want you all to know that, especially what the owners of the station know. We had a problem. We had a technical problem where for some reason when Christian was in, we could either have audio or video, but not both. So we had originally posted the audio, but I see the audio has since been taken down and is now video. So if you go to look it up on YouTube, all you get is Christian and I sitting here for 47 minutes, and you can't hear anything. It's like a silent movie with no subtitles. I've watched it all the way through. I would not recommend anyone else do that because I'm sure you've got better things to do with your time. So thank you for coming in despite the technical difficulties of last time and giving us a little bit of a do-over. Because I think what you have to say is important, and I want to make sure it gets out there. And more importantly, I want to make sure that it gets out there on the internet so that we have that to refer to, so people have that to refer to even years from now. Because how escrow works is critically important. You and I have talked about this many times.
Yes.
And I find it's the one area, other than maybe title, which you're also an expert in, because you were in title for many years as well.
Thank you.
This is one of the biggest questions people have is what is escrow and how does it work and why do I need one? So why don't we just start at the top? I know we know the answer to that question, but for our listeners who might not know, if you've never bought a house or if you have and just didn't know what was going on, there's a survey that the CR does every year. Yep. And NAR does the same one. I think they stopped doing it. What they ask is, what was the thing that was the biggest problem with you buying or selling a house? And they get the same answer every time. They get the same two answers. One is, in no particular order, everyone will come back in the survey and say, I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't feel I had control of the process. Mm-hmm. And those two things are linked. If you don't understand what's going on, you can't possibly have control of the process, whatever that process is. And a good escrow company, a good escrow officer is the solution to that problem. So that being said, what does escrow do?
Yeah, so we're the communicator. We're the neutral third party. We're following the contracts. We're, bringing all the parties together, and we're executing on the contract and working with title hand in hand, clearing prelims, and making sure that we're communicating with everyone. Everyone stays on the same page, which I have been in the industry for the last 24 years on the title and escrow side, and communication is key in everything.
I like to describe it as the hub of the wheel because everything has to go to escrow. The buyer has to go to escrow, seller has to go to escrow, both agents go to escrow, title, everything goes through escrow. Escrow is the central data point. Yeah. And a good escrow officer can make your life and a good escrow company can make your life a very smooth and easy place, and a bad one can do the opposite.
Absolutely. And we're very fortunate. We have two escrow officers over at Newhall Escrow now, too, both of them with over 20 years of experience and in different niches of the market as well, too. So
and those of you guys who know me, I've been using Newhall Escrow for many, 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 many years. Fantastic company, incredible lineage. I mean, the company's been around since, 65, I think?
1963.
63, I should remember that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, talk about hometown roots. I mean, that is fantastic. Let me ask you a couple of questions. I get questions all the time.
Sure.
So let me read you some of these. I know we've done through this. I know you know the answer to those, but let's see. So we talked about how escrow works. We know what an escrow is now, those of you who are listening. So do you need an escrow to buy a house?
Do you need an escrow to buy a house?
Is it necessary?
Yes, it is necessary. Absolutely is, and you have to have somebody quarterbacking the whole transaction. At that point, I hate to say it, but you don't always need a real estate agent to sell a house.
That's completely true.
But you do need escrow.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, escrow also coordinates title and everything else.
Correct.
If you don't have any coordinate, we were talking about a case before we got on the air that I asked you to help me out with, where it's a house, it's an inheritance. I won't bore you with this whole story. Maybe we'll tell it on the air some other time. But they thought they owned 100% of a house, and they just found out They only own 50% of the house. And the other party has no clue that they now own 50% of that house. And the reason that happened is because they did not involve an escrow company. They did it by themselves. They didn't involve a proper title company. They did it by themselves. And now it's a disaster. And they did that 15 years ago. So we have to try to unwrap a mess from 15 years ago that if they had done an escrow would have been avoided.
And that was what I was going to get to, the importance of a title insurance company, going through that process with you too, because at that point you have title insurance will cover that. Right, we got to make sure that when we're transferring the property, it's clean, it's clear, and everybody knows exactly how that property is being held and who's the owner of that property. So
maybe next time around, I'll ask your wife to come in. She's doing title now. Yeah, yeah. Less critical. We'll have both of you sit down. We'll get answers to everything. It'll be great. It's kind of a brain trust to go to, the two of you guys. So that's wonderful. Who chooses the escrow company typically?
Typically, it's the listing agent. The agent has the relationships with the escrow company, which is it's not have to be like that. It's actually the seller's choice in most instances, unless you're working with a buyer that prefers an escrow. We get a ton of we're a DFPI independent company. We do get a lot of escrows that the buyer wants their money held by us because we are independent. We're independent. We're not tied to a brokerage or to any of the companies.
As a matter of fact, we just closed one. I don't know if you probably haven't heard this story,
but
we just closed one where it's a house in Duarte, so not close, about an hour each way from here. And when I met with this lovely woman, she used to live out here, and so if you're listening, hi. Hi, Kat. Nice to talk. Nice to hear you from her. Nice to hear from you. Anyways, nicest people. And they used to live out here. And so she said, I only have one request. I said, okay, great. When we sell the house, I want to use an escrow company that I like. And I said, great. Who? And she said, have you ever heard of Newhall Escrow? And I started laughing. I almost fell out. I said, yeah, they do all my escrows already. It's like, we're of similar mind. That's fantastic. So, and you guys did a fantastic job. It was not an easy escrow. There's some probate stuff involved in the rest. But as always, Shelley did a fantastic job. The company did a great job. And it closed on time. Buyers happy, sellers happy. Agents are all happy. It worked out beautifully, which I don't get to say enough. So that was very, very easy. It was just funny as heck that somebody in Duarte said, have you ever heard of Newhall?
I love that.
Your legend is as outside the Santa Cruz Valley.
I had lunch with Mayor Miranda yesterday, and
cool.
He shared a story with me that in 1983, when he came from Boston to Santa Cruz Valley in 1983, January, his escrow was with Newhall Escrow.
It's a good egg. Yeah, it's a good company. It's got deep roots, and I can't say enough good stuff about it. So, my next question was, what are the benefits of an independent escrow? You hit on the biggest one, which is, I'm not putting down any other escrow companies in town.
Sure.
We're very, very spoiled, for lack of a better description. As a realtor, you're very spoiled. There's some very good options in this town. But I'm an independent sort. I've always kind of run my own thing. I've run my own companies and things like that over the years. You guys know that. So I like the idea of an independent company. I think that is far better than a broker-owned company. Licensing alone is a big deal. Oversight is another. Because as an independent company, you have your licensing is different because you're licensed not through DRE, you're licensed through Department of Corporations. Yep. There's a bit more oversight.
DFPI.
So, exactly. Well, in your opinion, what's the importance of an independent? I know what mine is.
Well, we absolutely. You hear horror stories of money running away from escrow, right? Mm-hmm. When you're with a DFPI escrow, everything's in place that if something were to go awry, that there's insurances and money in place so that you don't lose.
Well, we have the whole state of California that guarantees the escrow is going to work out properly, and you can't abscond with the funds. Yeah.
Yeah. So you definitely want to make sure where your money is going. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are very blessed to live into Santa Cruz Valley, and businesses practice differently here in real estate, right? Held to a little bit higher of a standard because of all of those people who came before us. I think they made sure that everyone crossed their T's and dot their I's. It's not like the Wild West of some of the other valleys, other surrounding valleys. And you know that you're going to run into these people in town, and if they're not doing a good job or doing right by you and your clients, everybody's going to know.
Yeah, it really is weird. Santa Cruz, we have over 300,000 people, and it's still very much a small town.
That's why I love it here.
Yeah, me too. I like it very much as well. And again, I'm not putting any other escrow companies or their broker on. That doesn't mean they can't do a good job. I've owned escrow companies when I had a brokerage. That was fine. But at the end of the day, I just think, and it's just a personal philosophy as well as a business one, I think you're better off with an independent escrow company. You just are. It's just safer. Now, I don't think anybody who works at any of the companies in town are going out of business tomorrow and going to take off with people's funds. That would be really strange. No. But at the same time, it's also easier from the realtor's point of view, I'll tell you, because you get into these arguments all the time that are kind of goofy. It's like you're working hard not to sell a house, where buyer and seller are kind of in place, and now the agents are going to have this huge knockdown, drag-out fight about what the services are. Yeah. And to me, that just seems ridiculous. And it ends that argument by just saying, look, I want to use an independent company. I don't want to use the one you work for because they're beholden to you and to the company that pays them.
Sure.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
Just I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. It's just different. I am much better off, and I think my clients are much better served with an independent escrow company.
Absolutely.
And when you make that argument, the other agent will usually go, well, I mean, is it because you're trying to qualify for a cash prize at the company or a trip to Fiji or something, which we're not supposed to do anyway? Why do you need to use that other escrow company so badly? Because I know why we use Newhall. Why is it you need to use this other one? And usually when you have that argument, it sort of settles out. We usually get Newhall anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely an education to the clients and to the consumer, right?
Oh,
I mean, I would definitely, and I don't talk down any of my competition, but for our listeners,
you don't need to.
You definitely want to stay away from a DRE escrow if at all possible, right? Because they're obviously going to have a little bit of a pat on the shoulder or a rub of the elbow with their clients, making sure that the escrow gets closed.
Well,
right?
when you work for a parent company and they're the ones who are cutting your check, you're going to have some onus to them. Sure. You just are. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It just doesn't suit my needs, my clients' needs. Yep. I think independent is a much, much better way to go. Is it safe to? Next question: is it safe to give escrow money? I love this question. Comes up. I must have gotten 14 or 15 of the same thing. As it's how the only way houses get bought and sold, and kind of escrow's main job, aside from all the rest of it. Yes, it is safe to give escrow money. But what would your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. We have trust accounts that are rock solid. There's no getting in. You have to have admin access. You have to be background checked, DFPI registered.
Audited regularly.
There's a lot. I just went through the process myself.
Yep.
And man, your money is safe. It's in a trust account.
You want to talk a little bit about wire fraud? We've been seeing a lot of that stuff lately. I got a couple of questions about that because every time we turn around, there's just more wire fraud stuff. Wire fraud has become one of the biggest businesses in organized crime.
Sure.
Because if you send out a bad wire, it literally can be out of this country within about 30 seconds and wind up in. I'm told a lot of it winds up in Azerbaijan. I don't know why that is. I have a friend of mine who's in the Secret Service who told me that. Works for the Treasury Department, and once it's gone, it's gone.
Yep.
You're not getting it back.
Yep.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things people can do to avoid that?
So you got to make sure that they are calling and verifying that wire number, right?
Communication.
So
all it comes down to.
Absolutely. It's communication. Make sure that you're hearing it out of the voice of the escrow officer or someone that is with that company. Mm-hmm. Do not just wire your money. Make sure that you check the email address that it's being sent to. A lot of the wire fraud comes from email, so they're hacking into the email systems, and they're replacing our emails with theirs.
Yeah, we had one not that long ago where we got an email, and he misspelled the word Newhall, thank goodness. But they were purportedly from Newhall Escrow. Okay. And they wanted money sent in to this wired to this account. Okay. And luckily they misspelled Newhall, and luckily my client called me and said, "This feels that is fishy. Don't do that." Don't do that. Yeah. You definitely want to check with escrow before you do any of that stuff. You want to verify account numbers for sure. And your bank, when you go into your bank, you can have your bank call before they send the wire, and most banks will do this anyway, to verify that the money is going where it's supposed to go.
And we are more than happy to do that. We have a closing department. Jolene, she's great. She double checks everything. Yeah, she's amazing, and she's our guard dog.
Yeah,
Well,
she's always been nice to me. Maybe it's because I don't present a threat. Anyway, the whole gang over there.
Everyone loves you. The cookie guy.
I feed them.
Yes.
As Matt, as he was walking out of the studio earlier, I was handing out cookies at the station. He said he's trying to buy friends, and I said yes. And by the way, Matt was not being mean about it. Matt is a very funny guy. He was having some fun, and it was very funny. It was very funny when he said it. And he's absolutely right. Sure, what's easier than that? I use DW cookies. That's sort of my get out of jail.
They were warm too. Who doesn't like that?
Of course. Yes. Well, that's also by design. For those of you who listened, if you heard the last show, I have a cookie named after me now. So if you go to DW Cookies on Solid Ad, I would consider it a personal favor if you get at least one rich cookie. It's chocolate chip with coconut. And of all the accolades I've had in my life, there have been several. I've got some families around who name pets after me. I've got one friend of mine who's in Acton, and whenever he raises alpacas, and whenever they have a new brood of alpacas, a new litter of, I know it's a brood or litter, but a new baby alpacas, whichever one is the loudest, spits the most, and is most difficult to deal with, I think you got there ahead of me on the joke, they name that one Rich.
Oh, wow.
So I was still happy. I still thought it was awesome.
Sure.
But having a cookie's better. Anyway, bring it. What makes a good escrow officer? Let's get into that one.
Someone that's going to stand their ground, to be honest, because there is a lot of back and forth, and at the end of the day, we need to hold to the contract.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we put someone strong in position who's going to make the right decision, whether it's going to hurt feelings or.
Yeah, the law is law, the rules. But
Absolutely.
Patience and knowing what you're doing, patience and experience.
Absolutely. Mixed in with a little bedside manner as well.
Well, yeah,
too, of course.
yeah.
Right?
Again, that's where the cookies come in.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is a good one. When does escrow officially close? When someone says they're closing escrow, what does that mean?
So that means the loan is funded, and title has recorded the documents, the grant deeds, the deed of trust, if there was a loan on the property, and now we're officially closed. So that means now the property is now into the buyer's name.
Cool.
So congratulations. That's the favorite. I know my clients always love to hear that we're closed.
Yeah.
It's the sigh of relief.
Yeah.
We've done it.
Well, the four I was training an agent the other day, and the four magic words during an escrow: the deposit is in, the contingencies have been waived, the loan has funded, the escrow has closed.
It's just that
those
easy.
are the 4 milestones. Yeah, I wish. Those are the 4 milestones. Once you line up all 4 of those, everybody's happy. Until you line up all 4 of those, and you do have to have all 4, and there's a lot of stuff you got to do to get there, it's much more difficult. But yeah, those are the big 4. So when does the buyer get their keys? When it closes.
Absolutely. Again, to the contract too, right?
Yeah, and this is more a question for escrow. When does the seller get their proceeds?
The seller gets the proceeds normally the same day. Hopefully the same day, unless it's off wire cutoff time. Everyone will give you a different wire cutoff time, but as long as you usually have the money in by about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and we're able to wire that out, seller will get their proceeds in the same day.
That's also a unique thing, I think, with an independent escrow company. Most broker-owned, I don't know if this is true of all of them, but in my experience, a lot of the broker-owned escrow companies, it's always a day or 2 delayed. Yeah. So you have to wait a little bit longer. It's usually not that big a deal, but it can be. And I noticed with an independent company, it's quick. It's quick, so they're not held up. If somebody's selling a house to buy another house especially, they're not held up because the money comes across the same day, and they're able to move on like they're supposed to.
One of the biggest things about an independent company is you're going to get the customer service is going to be there, right? We don't have that business built in to the company. We're out there, and we want to make sure that we deliver on service always a little bit better than you're going to get anywhere else.
Well, you have to. That's the downside of being an independent escrow office. You have to pay that much better. You have to work that much harder.
I love that portion.
Yeah,
yes,
for you, that's like duck to water. That's easy. Okay. What is an estimated closing statement versus a closing statement?
So the estimated closing statement, we give those out regularly to let people know how much they should anticipate that they're going to bring in to close. And then the actual closing statement itself is, this is exactly what you paid. Here you go. Save it for your taxes. You're going to need it.
You want to typically get, those of you guys who are listening, you definitely want to get an estimated closing statement at the onset. Escrow will usually give you one anyway, whether you ask for it or not. But that's all the dollars and cents. What you want to do is you want to go through it with your agent and with your lender if necessary, and you want to make sure that you're being charged what you're supposed to be charged, and there's nothing over or under. And you square that all away, and if there are any issues, you take it up with the various people involved. The agent should be able to help you with that. But those are the dollars and cents. You want to make sure those all line up, because at the end of the day, the final closing statement is done. So you want to make sure you work it as you go, because you want to make sure you want to know what you're paying for. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely.
So I tell you what, I see by the clock on the wall, we're just about getting ready for another break. Why don't we go to break a little bit early before we get into the rest of these, because they're getting a little bit more interesting as we go along. It's getting a little weirder. Just my listeners. What can I tell you? I love you guys. I really do, and I really do like the very strange questions. I enjoy them very, very much. So those are the more fun ones. So Russell and others who like to send those to me, thank you. Keep them coming. Let's go to break. Let's hear from some of the advertisers. When we come back, we'll hear some more. I'm Rich Szerman, your host on the Real Estate Fix. This is KHTS, AM 1220, FM 98.1, your hometown station. Hi guys, welcome back. You're listening to the Real Estate Fix with Rich, your congenial host today and every day when it comes to Real Estate Fix on KHTS, AM 1220, FM 98.1, your hometown station. And we have in studio today Christian Lazore of Newhall Escrow and many, many other things. He's been in title, he's been in escrow, he's been all over the real estate industry for 22 years, I think he said? Just 24. Short of 24, just 24 years, just short of forever. Yeah. He knows a ton. So we're asking him all sorts of questions, and he's being very generous with his time and answering them. And I appreciate that. Let's move on to the next one. So let's talk a little about, we talked a little bit about this, but I want to get a little bit more specific. These really are kind of tied together. The first question is, all our escrow companies the same? And no is the answer to that, and we'll expound in a second. And then who regulates escrow? I want you to go a little deeper into that if you could. It's the big difference between DRE escrow versus
Sure. So you got DRE escrow, which is owned by the actual brokerage, broker owned, which is kind of, I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way, but that's the lowest on the totem pole,
It's
right?
the easiest to achieve.
Correct. And then you got the Department of Insurance. So you got your title companies, which a lot of people really like to do, like big, giant scaled commercial buildings. Their escrow is great for those kind of
Yeah,
situations.
title and escrow, yeah.
Right. And then you got us with the DFPI that is hold to the highest standard of the escrow.
What's the highest standard you can have in residential escrows?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Because you guys are licensed a little more judiciously. It's a
Yep.
little bit more difficult to
Yep.
get that license, and you're audited all the time. DRE escrows are audited too, but
All
you
the
guys are
time.
audited constantly.
Yep, I've already had a couple conversations with the DFPI since I've been in the captain's chair. They are definitely watching us, scrutinizing us, making sure that all T's are crossed, I's are audited, and that if anything were to happen, that they could come in and take over the business and make sure that everyone's closed.
And I believe they also have the ability to give a criminal referral. So if you screw up in a DRE escrow, you got a problem, and it could cause all sorts of problems. But in a corporate-owned escrow, if you make a mistake, there's a decent chance you're going to jail.
Yes.
So that's the standard you have to hold yourself to, which I think is pretty good.
Absolutely, and we have a full legal team behind us as
Yeah.
well too. That's always a big support to.
Well, I know
to our
Newhall well.
company.
You're in no danger of going to jail, but it's just different stakes we're playing for. That's all.
We've actually never been to court. We've been to court one time. Is what I've been told.
Since 1963,
Since
I think that holds you pretty
1963,
well.
yeah, absolutely.
I think that speaks pretty well of you guys. I didn't know that. I'll start
Well,
using
the
that when I
corn,
talk to
the
people.
corn family, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Steve, if you're listening, thank you very much for all the work you did up to this point. I think you've chosen well.
Thank you.
You guys just took over the company. So, okay, let's talk about some of the more fun stuff. Because I know what this is, but I want the public to hear about this because I think it's a really cool thing you guys are doing. What is the Homes and More kiosk?
Wow, Homes and More is just a project that started off, and it's in the Valencia Promenade, and it's for real estate. It's real estate news. We have the mayor coming in and breaking information of what's going on, and we're allowing real estate agents to come in. There's a short form content studio in there, allowing them to get to the masses and to their spheres, and passing down the information the mayor has. Right. So we're using our relationships to put it together with the real estate agent to create synergy and good information getting pushed out to the consumer.
Yeah, you're also building a nice database that people can go back to again and again and again of this is how it works. I mean, same thing with the radio share and some of the stuff I do. Yeah,
we're actually building out an app right now. It's going to be Homes and
Oh,
More.
hey, even
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Cool.
We're right there, and it's literally going to be, what do you need? It's for all home services. Anything you need, a gardener, you need an electrician, you need a plumber. We're going to provide you with 3 local quotes from Santa Clarita Valley. 3 plumbers, right? You got a leaky faucet. You let us know on our app. We're gonna give you 3 quotes to a plumber.
so kind of like an Angie's List sort of thing, but more locally.
It's a
and
local
and it's real estate.
local Angie's List. Absolutely, yeah. We're here to we want to give back to the small businesses out there and tie it into the real estate agents as well too. We're always going to lead with our agents. We have a huge network of real estate agents out here and people that are doing business at the top levels.
Yeah, I've got some people I can recommend to you for air conditioning and things like that. You probably already have a lot of us use a lot of this.
We'd love to have
But
it.
anyway, I think it's fantastic. I mean, nothing against Angie's List, but in our area they seem to be very poorly represented.
A lot of that stuff's coming out from the San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles. So
Yeah.
they're coming out here.
I stopped using Angie's List. I've not had the best luck with them. Maybe it's just me, but I've not had good luck with them at all. So something that's locally based, I think, would be fantastic. I didn't even know about this. This is fantastic. Okay, bigger questions. What is your vision for Newhall Escrow going forward? I know you guys didn't buy the company just because I know it wasn't just a cash thing for you guys. I know you guys have a whole much bigger, like the app and stuff we're talking about. You guys have a much bigger vision you're after, which is, I think, really impressive. Could you expand on that a little bit?
So
Or a lot.
I mean, our vision, we definitely want to stay like rooted into Newhall with this location, but we absolutely want to expand too and help real estate agents and entrepreneurs get their dream as well too, and just be a great service for the community. I've already been out to like 8 nonprofits since I've taken over, and we're
great.
waving the Newhall Escrow flag. We want to make sure that Steve's Corns and Ron Corn's legacy lives on, and that we keep on building off that. At the end of the day, what Newhall Escrow is doing is building our relationships with our clients, right? So you and I, when I came over, that was when I got the opportunity to meet you, Rich, and I've got the ability to meet probably another 40, 50 agents since then, which were people that came before me that I never had the pleasure of speaking to. And now we're building relationships, helping each other out, and growing business. And I think that's one of the biggest things about building business in Santa Clarita. It's all about your relationships.
Well, again, like we talked about, Santa Clarita is, and one of the reasons I live here and I raised a child here, and I'm definitely rooted in this community, and wherever I go in the world, this is home for me, and I'm sure you would say the same, is because despite the number of people here and the services and everything we have here, which we're, again, really quite spoiled in this area, it's a very nice area, it's still a small town. I mean, everybody still kind of knows everybody. I mean, like that gal in Duarte, because she lived here for half a minute, knows Newhall Escrow. Yeah. So, which was wonderful, and the escrow went great, so it was wonderful. But, yeah, no, it's Santa Clarita. It's just, there's something, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the way the town was founded or because it took us so long to become a city in the 80s or what it was exactly, because I've been here since, 79, I think. 78. Anyway, so, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that the town developed, but it's sort of like, kind of like LA, but not. You know, we're sort of the next valley over. So as a result, we get, you know, you can always drive to the theater and stuff and do what you want to do, but in LA, but it's not the same kind of element. It's not the same. It's not quite as, I don't know, ruthless. Maybe is a better. Good
I think there's no place like home, and Santa Cruz just feels like home.
Yeah, that's a better way to put that. Okay, this is another one. This is we talked about this before because the last show. This is a good one for the last show. What was the path to becoming the new CEO of Newhall Escrow for you? How did you kind of get here?
Okay, so 24-year run. You know, I graduated from Saugus High School, class of 2000, and I was working in a pizzeria, and had someone come to me with an opportunity to get onto the title side, which I took back in 2001, and from there I was working inside, and they were like, "Man, you need to get outside." The gift of gab, right?
You talk a lot. Go be an outside sales.
Yeah, go outside sales. Go outside sales.
Yep.
You know, I ran with the title insurance thing for the first 12 years or so. The market started coming down, and I jumped over to the escrow side briefly and did some sales there, opened it up in Sherman Oaks. I worked on Ventura Boulevard, but was always local here to Santa Clarita. So I was making that commute for the first 14 years out that way, and then got the opportunity for Santa Clarita to become a part of my territory at Old Republic Title, because the title rep at the time made the switch over to another company, and it allowed me in. So
that's when I first heard you. Actually, when you came over to Old Republic,
So then I've been out here for almost 10 years now, and getting to work in my backyard and meeting people like Steve Korn, and a bunch of other people who've been doing it out here for a long time. Stayed real close, locked elbows with Steve Korn. I asked him if he could help coach me and cut off 10 years of growth and teach me.
Steve literally grew up in the business and then took it over and then spent a lifetime running it. So there are very few people that know as much about escrow or as escrow as Steve Korn.
And I think I just wear my heart on this on my sleeve like Steve does, and we always try to keep doing the right thing and helping people regardless of the situation. And I think he saw that in me, and he knew that was what where he wanted the company to keep on going. So, it's still, last weekend we were out at Project Sebastian. The SEV Stairs project, which is a part of my stuff. We've been out in the community at Newhall Escrow probably 10 times in the last 5 months, and just enjoying to keeping the name out there.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the point. And doing good, if you want to be a community business, doing good in the community is a great way to build PR. It's very inexpensive advertising most of the time, and it's the best kind of advertising you can have. People who think well of you is kind of the key. Anyway, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming to give us a do-over. We had a little technical issue. I appreciate that very, very much.
No problem.
So we'll have this one in the books now. And if you guys have any questions about escrow or title or anything else, all things real estate, feel free to give me a call anytime. I can be reached at 661-714-1400. If you have any questions for Christian, just give me a call. I will I'll get you to him. We'll get your questions answered. You can also send me emails at richsherman.com. You can reach me through the station. Cell phone usually works the best. 661-714-1400. Again, 661-714-1400. My name again is Rich Szerman. You've been listening to The Real Estate Fix on KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220. Have a good weekend. Bye.